Today we'll be addressing the concept of affinity diagram. This is a concept that's used usually at the first stage of DMAIC on Six Sigma. When you try to do a DMAIC study, you start with the define phase, and this is one of the tools that you can use it on that phase. Of course, you can use it on the other phases as well, but you start at that phase where affinity diagram, you can see how it is so important. For example, affinity diagram is a tool used to organize and categorize large amount of data or ideas into meaningful groups based on their relationship or similarity. Also important of affinity diagram, it facilitates structured brainstorming, group collaboration, and decision making by visually organizing all this complex of information into one area. What's the purpose of affinity diagram? First, it clarifies and organizes complex ideas. For example, in a manufacturing setting, affinity diagram can help organize various factors affecting production efficiency, such as machine downtime, material shortage, and quality issue. Also, it facilitates group communication and collaboration. In a service, for example, context, affinity diagram can assist in organizing customer feedback and identifying common themes of area of improvement. Now, the application where the affinity diagram will be applied. Brainstorming session, team can use affinity diagram to organize ideas generated during brainstorming session, as seen, for example, in marketing department, brainstorming ideas for a new advertising campaign. Also in root cause analysis, affinity diagram can help identify underlying causes of the problem, such as identifying reason for customer complaint in a restaurant setting. Also in process improvement field, in a manufacturing plant, affinity diagram can be used to analyze workflow inefficiency and streamline production process. Also in strategic planning, organizations can use affinity diagram to prioritize goals and strategies for future growth and development. Now we'll see where that affinity diagram fits within the DMAIC phases. In the define phase, team will establish the problem or objective that the affinity diagram will address, such as identifying reasons for declining sale in a retail business, for example. In the measure phase, team will collect quantitative data to support their analysis, because you have to have some figures in order to understand the trend, such as measuring production cycle times or customer satisfaction score. In the analyze phase, during that phase, team will categorize and analyze the data that has been collected in the measure phase to identify any patterns and trend, such as grouping customer complaint by product category in a retail setting. In the improve phase, will involve developing and implementing solution based on insight that was gained by that affinity diagram, such as implementing a new quality control processes in a manufacturing facility. And finally, in the control phase, team will establish measures to monitor and sustain the improvement, such as regularly reviewing production metrics to ensure ongoing efficiency. Now, let's say how we can apply affinity diagram into each of those phases, and how we can use it. First, we will be collecting data and insight. Example will be in the healthcare setting. Team may collect patient feedback to identify areas for improvement in service delivery. Then you will group related ideas and observations. Team, for example, can generate similar feedbacks that you just gathered from the first one, together, such as grouping patient comments related to waiting time or staff, professionalism. In the measure phase, you will organize data for analysis. For example, in a retail setting, team may use Affinity Diagram to categorize sales data by product category or geographic region or customer demographic. Then you will identify key metrics and indicators. Example, by analyzing group data, team can identify key performance indicators like KPI to measure and monitor such things such as sales trend or customer retention rate. Now, in the analyze phase, you will identify patterns and themes. For instance, in a software development company, team may use an Affinity Diagram to group customers' feature requests by functionality or user experience. Then you will discover the root cause of the problem. By analyzing group data, team can identify underlying issues that contribute to the problem, such as software bugs or user interface issue. Now, in the improve phase, you will start generate and evaluate potential solution. For example, in a hospitality setting, team may use Affinity Diagram to brainstorm solutions to improve guest satisfaction based on group feedback, and you will prioritize action based on the insight you just gained by considering, of course, the impact and feasibility of each solution. And the team can prioritize action to implement, such as staff training program or facility upgrade as needed. Then on the control phase, you will establish processes for ongoing monitoring and improvement. For example, in a manufacturing context, team may establish regular quality control check to ensure continued adherence to production standard. Then you will ensure sustained effectiveness of solution by monitoring key metrics. Over time, team can assess the effectiveness of implemented solution and make adjustment as needed. Now, let's try to see how we can build an Affinity Diagram, just going, step by step, and this way you will have a better view really how you can build an Affinity Diagram, because it's very important that you build it correctly, and because that's the data you will base all your project on when you move forward. First, you will define the topic or the problem clearly. For example, articulate the focus of the Affinity Diagram, such as improving customer service or optimizing production process. Then you will gather relevant data, insight, and observation. Collect data from various sources such as customer feedback survey, production reports, or employees interview. Then write each idea or observation on a sticky note. Use a separate sticky note for each idea or observation to allow for easy arrangement. Then group similar idea all together, which will identify common themes or pattern and group related idea accordingly. Here, this is a sample of Affinity Diagram. We haven't finished yet the steps, but this is just a sample. You can see how they are grouped together, under breaking through old way, thinking, lack of planning. Those are the main categories, and those are the subcategories that will go under that heading. Each one has its own heading, and then the related items to that heading. This way you can organize them, and then you can dedicate team for each of those heading, according to their, expertise and skills. Now let's continue in our steps. Now you will create a header, just like I said, or a category for each group. Write descriptive header, to describe the label, each group, and provide context for the group idea. Then you will discuss and refine those grouping as needed. Now collaborate, very important, with team members to ensure that grouping accurately reflects the relationship between those ideas. Then arrange groups and subgroups into a meaningful structure. Organize groups hierarchically to create a logical flow of information. And then finally, in that affinity diagram, you document, affinity diagram for reference. Transfer the group ideas into a large surface such as whiteboard, digital document, or easy reference, for sharing this information together. Now here, just same concept we just explained, but in an image that you can see and imagine. You state the problem, you generate ideas for the issue in question, collect ideas, cards, sticky notes, whatever tools you will use. Arrange those ideas into related group and subgroup, then create a title heading for each of those groups. I think now you have a clear, visualization of what the affinity diagram stands for. Now let's do an example of affinity diagram for customer feedback analysis. Customer feedback analysis, which is a service. First, you collect data, gather customer feedback from various channels such as survey, social media, and direct interaction. Then group that data, which will identify themes in the feedback such as product quality, customer service, and pricing. And then the insight will be, you will analyze the feedback to identify areas for improvement and prioritize actions such as enhancing product feature or providing additional training to customer service staff. Now let's take an example in the process improvement sector. First, you collect data on existing processing, including workflow, diagram, performance metrics, and employee feedback. Then you group related issues and inefficiencies such as bottleneck, delays, and quality defect. Then the insight will be that you will analyze group data to identify root causes of process problem and develop a targeted solution, such as implementing new technology or redesigning the workflow, or maybe updating the skills of your employees. Now tips for effective affinitive diagram. First, very important, you have to encourage participation from diverse stakeholders. Include perspective from different departments or roles to ensure comprehensive data collection. Focus on capturing ideas without judgment. Create a supportive environment where team members feel comfortable sharing their insight and observation. Then use visual aids and color coding for clarity. Utilize color-coded sticky notes or markers to visualize and distinguish between different groups and categories. And then you will iterate and refine the diagram as a new insight emerges, of course. Continuously, you need to update the affinity diagram as additional data is collected or a new perspective are considered. In every tools, there is always a pitfall, and that's something, normal, and we all understand that. So the pitfall will be like how to avoid them. First, group idea too broadly or narrowly. Grouping idea too broadly or narrowly. Strive always to find the right balance between generalization and specificity. to ensure meaningful grouping. This way you don't go outside the box, or you don't stay enclosed within a limited area. Then you overlook minority perspective. Consider all views, even if they present a smaller portion of the data, to avoid bias and ensure inclusivity. Then failing to revisit and update the diagram as needed. Remember, this is a live document. It needs to be updated regularly as new incidents occur or become evident. Regularly review and revise the affinity diagram to reflect evolving insight and priorities. Ignoring also actionable insight will ensure that the affinity diagram lead to a tangible action and improvement rather than becoming just a document exercise. In conclusion, we could say, affinity diagram is a powerful tool for organizing and analyzing data in group collaboration and derive decision making, and it's important to use it, especially when you are on the mission to implement Six Sigma using the MAYAC methodology in the define phase, because everything after that will be built on that data you just gathered. So I hope this information was helpful, and I will see you in the next video.